Around 2 centuries ago, free men carried out a fine trade. Equipped with vague charts, they set out in ships in the hope of being the first to discover new lands. Weeks, months at sea, and that hope of finding new inhabited spaces never faded. A few days sailing from Tahiti, almost on the road to the far distant Antarctica much further down, you can still get the sensation of living out a great adventure. The end of a stormy afternoon. The clouds part, the sky opens, the landscape suddenly explodes. The mountain becomes green again, and the lagoon is all blue. Raivavae, 996 inhabitants, French Polynesia. The Austral Archipelago. Welcome to a corner of France that is neither glamour, austere, boring, or rock and roll. Although Polynesia is far from anywhere, so isolated in the Pacific, what can you say of Raivavae in the Australs, where you notice that the telephone booths are the same as in a Paris suburb? People here live in the middle of the ocean with all the commodities, while avoiding some of the worst constraints. As on all the islands of Polynesia, the young people bring out their canoes at the end of the afternoon for the ritual training session. All those at the foot of this high island live in another space and time, and from this height, you almost envy them. Around 2 centuries ago, free men sailed into the unknown, but sometimes their dreams of adventure turned sour. A diabolical captain, a crew that mutinies, and here we have the island of Tubuai, at the heart of one of the spiciest stories in maritime history, the mutiny on the Bounty. The first contacts between the mutineers and the islanders turn into massacre. 12 natives are killed along this beach that they still call Bloody Bay. Later, the situation only got worse, forcing the mutineers to resume their desperate flight towards Pitcairn. Tubuai, French Polynesia, a little over 2,000 inhabitants. Today, it's the economic centre and administrative capital of the Austral Archipelago. 6 islands scattered across the ocean, almost as distant from each other as they are from Tahiti. On the north coast of the island is Mataura, the administrative centre of the Tubuai commune. The principal village with post office, town hall, gendarmerie, a few shops and a great number of places of worship, Protestant, Catholic, Evangelical, and temples for Mormons, Pentecostans, Adventists and Jehovah's Witnesses, which means that on Sunday the whole island prays. During the week, there's school, and especially the passing cargo ships. Having passed the coral barrier, the Tubuai 2 has anchored this morning at the end of the only dock. It will sail away with grapefruit the size of footballs, carrots, potatoes, cabbages, and a local speciality, taro. A short distance in from the coast, past the forests of pine and acacia, there's this swampy ground, rather well irrigated, where near the watercourses you can sometimes surprise hippopotamus cows. There's a lesson in this image of happiness. You can also graze happily in French Polynesia. In the distance at the heart of the island, a massif rises to more than 400 meters. This is Mount Taita, the remains of an ancient volcano. From the summit of Mount Taita, a panoramic vista opens out over the rural island of Tubuai. Plain, lagoon, and Pacific Ocean finally united. Yesterday, hostile to the settling of the mutineers of the Bounty, Tubuai remains true to itself. Today it's well sheltered from the tourist crowds. This Polynesia becomes strange and disconcerting. Even further to the east, no less isolated, another of the Austral Islands. Rurutu, also largely unknown, even though a president of the Republic on an official visit insisted on visiting the caves dug into the cliffs. Since then, they've been called the Mitterrand Caves, and goats have set up home there. Here, as in the rest of the Australs, the same impression is overwhelming, that history is repeating itself, that moving from island to island you are also returning to the same point of departure. The island of Tahiti, and as metaphor for this relative dependence, a cargo ship, the same one that supplies Tubuai, Raivavae or Rapa, the most distant of the islands. Rurutu, population 2000, was discovered by James Cook. However, for a long time it remained off the routes of other sailors and commercial shipping. So, 2 centuries ago, free men carried out a fine trade. Much later, other adventurers in much more modern ships sailed to this archipelago, visit these villages. They stay here, come and go over all the seas of the world, with a special thought rooted deep in some corner of their minds, for these Polynesian islands. Rurutu, 2 villages, and in the west a mountain with an evocative name, Raivavae, which in Tahitian means bird of passage. Alan Kola, a famous yachtsman of the 70s, named his giant sailboat after this mountain. Taking part in a race, he was never again seen. All that remains is a song, a legend, and a mountain on an island in the Pacific, Raivavae. As we finish our journey in these distant Australs, a confusing sense of too little, an insatisfaction gnaws at us. Some final panache, a slap in the face is missing. We remembered Raivavae as the image of Bora Bora, without the bungalows and hotel chains, but with candour added. We remembered this vegetation so dense that it hid the only road that runs around the island. On the map of the Pacific, it's the France from way down at the bottom, the France that doesn't get talked about, that watches past tropical storms, and not so long ago used to wait for ships from Tahiti to pass, to have some visitors and some news of the world. 5:30. A place of worship, so many of which exist in these austral lands, is reflected in the lagoon. It will soon be night. Today, with the new runway, Raivavae joins the rest. It's now an accessible island, an island that's almost ordinary.